तो जी मैं रिकॉर्ड शुरू करूं? आपका ये है। मैं शुरू कर दिया। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So thank you all very much for joining today's session. So we will continue our discussion on this topic. We have been stretching it for a while now. So we will try to complete some portion today. So we have been discussing on this theme of what is the right mode to approach the technical sections of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we were discussing, why Srimad Bhagavatam being Amala Puran, why there is so much discussion about various other topics which don't seem to have a direct connection with our developing Krishna Prem. When that is the purpose of the book, why is it that the topics of Srimad Bhagavatam, many of the topics don't seem to directly align with that purpose, or it's not very clear why Bhagavatam is discussing these topics. So we started discussing. I think we discussed three reasons. Yeah, three reasons we discussed. The first reason being Srimad Bhagavatam is not just for the Paramahamsas. So we saw that how Vyasadev, Narada Muni, Shukadev Goswami, Maitreya, all of them, when they wrote Bhagavatam or when they spoke Bhagavatam, they very clearly mentioned that they compiled the book primarily for ignorant people and not for Paramahamsas. So it is not the right understanding that the book is meant only for Paramahamsas. The book is meant primarily for the conditioned souls who are struggling in this material world with their conditionings and all that. But having said that, it is called as Paramahamsa Samhita for two reasons. One is because the Paramahamsas can perfectly relate to this book. They get the right experience, just like a sugar candy. The taste of sugar candy, which is sweetness, is properly experienced only by a person who is healthy and is not afflicted by jaundice. Similarly, the Paramahamsas can get the perfect experience of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. The perfect example of that being Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates. Practically they would discuss Bhagavatam, and Gadadhar Pandit and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, during the discussion, the Bhagavatam would get wet with their tears, or in the case of someone says no sound, others are able to hear the sound. Zoom. I mean, of course, live you can hear. Okay, they are able to hear. Yeah, थोड़ा कम कर दें. Okay, so Bhagavatam is perfectly relished by the Paramahamsas. We saw the example of Pundarik Vidyanidhi. As soon as he heard Ahopakiyam, so he was completely in ecstasy. That is the real effect of Bhagavatam. Every word of Bhagavatam, actually. Ideally, that should be the effect it should be creating, because Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna in total. Every single syllable, even those which describe the, all these various other topics, the Vamshavalis and all those things, all those topics actually describe the form of Krishna. They're non-different. They they describe a particular limb of Krishna's body in the form of Bhagavatam. So therefore, the healthy persons, when they hear, it has the perfect effect. So this we saw. And also it is called as Paramahamsa Samhita, because whoever takes shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam, they become Paramahamsas. Nothing less than that. Right. So this was the first topic that we discussed. We saw some verses supporting this point. And then the second reason we saw that how understanding of these topics is a prerequisite to understand the higher topics. The initial so-called technical topics is actually a prerequisite to understand the higher topics of direct Leela Avatar Katha. So where Srila Shukadeva Goswami says that if one understands these topics which are relatively easy to understand, then one can understand the Leela Avatar Katha, which like an Upanishad is very difficult to understand, he says. And then we try to understand why the pastimes of Leela Avataras are so difficult to understand, because they involve rasa, right? So we saw many examples from Uddhava's jealousy of the Vrajavasis. We discussed, and then we discussed the example of Prithu Maharaj competing with Mother Lakshmi, right? And then we also discussed the Satyabhama's jealousy towards the Vrajavasis, this example that we saw. How it's very easy to misunderstand the emotions to be material emotions, because they look so similar from the external point of view, but the similarity is only cosmetic. It is not, the internal substance is totally different. It's just like a stuffed Pomeranian dog looking very realistic, right? So both of them are standing together. Maybe the stuffed dog may look more attractive, but in reality, it's not live. It's not alive. So therefore, but the problem is the cosmetic similarity is too much, which might force us to actually see it as mundane. So therefore, because of the misleading nature of this Leelavatar Katha, therefore it is very difficult to understand, right? So unless one understands spiritual rasa, it's very difficult to relate to these subject matters, right? So and then we saw some other examples, Mother Yashoda's anxiety and anger towards Krishna, that sometimes she beats Krishna, right? So of course, I decided not to go over all the examples. It will become too exhaustive. So so then at the end, we discussed the purport of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, where he describes why in Bhagavatam, why there is so much discussion about this universal form, about the nature of Jiva, why there is so little sweet discussion about the qualities and forms of the Leela Avataras, why not? So then described that how such subject matters are perfect for the discussion of the perfected devotees, whereas for the conditioned souls, the sadhakas, the initial topics are more relevant. And he gives very elaborate commentary on this. This is where we paused last time. Two topics we have discussed. So today we will start discussing the third reason, how Bhagavatam accomplishes multiple purposes through multiple topics. This is what we are going to discuss today. But before we start this, if there are any discussion points, comments, questions based on what we discussed, what we have discussed till now, we can take. Mhm. is meant for them. Yeah, to attract them. Yeah. So the question by Sachipran Prabhu for those who are online, I will repeat that when Shukadeva Goswami was narrating Srimad Bhagavatam, it was not just Parikshit Maharaj. There were many other personalities, some of whom it is very clearly mentioned by Srila Prabhupada also in his purport that they were not pure devotees, they were either mixed devotees, they were jnanis, some of them were karmis, not karmis as in materialists, but karma yogis, like that. So definitely some of the topics are also meant for attracting them. It also accomplishes that purpose. Because if I say it accomplishes only that purpose, then that topic would become irrelevant for devotees. So it accomplishes that purpose for them, but it accomplishes other purposes for devotees also, which we are going to see in this reason. That how all these topics are relevant for devotees also, and devotees accept it. Like I think Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti says in this purport. Yeah, correct. Where does he say that? Yeah, first, yeah. Krishna is who is completely full of sweetness in his form, qualities, and pastimes, and possesses dharma, jnana, bala, and aishwarya, since he contains all avatars such as Matsya and Kurma, and the aspects of Brahman and Paramatma as well, is worshipped by all types of devotees. So the Paramatma feature is the Purusha avatars. So because it is an aspect of Krishna, because Paramatma is an aspect of Krishna, or it's one level of understanding the absolute truth. Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavaniti Shabdyate. Tattvam yad jnanam advayam. It is non-different. It is one aspect of the absolute truth. So if we don't understand the Paramatma aspect of the absolute truth, which means if we don't know that Krishna is also involved in, through his Purusha avatars, he is also involved in managing the affairs of this material world, it's an incomplete understanding of the absolute truth. And also, if we do not understand that Krishna through his Brahman feature is all pervading through this material world, that is incomplete understanding of the absolute truth. So in order to completely understand the absolute truth, understanding these aspects is critical actually. So yeah, anything else before we move ahead to the next? Yes, ma'am.
We have in this book that especially the second we all relished it together. But, is it possible that there are devotees who don't feel the need of looking into this aspect? But like, not that they want to bring Krishna to them, but they don't need to know things in so much of depth. And, like I had this experience discussing. जब तो बहुत एनालिसिस करती है तो बहुत सोचती है इतना जरूरत नहीं है just समझ लो अच्छा स्वीट है पास में उनको सेवा कर
How do we understand them? Yeah. Are we too analytical? Are we getting paralyzed by our analysis?
we are going in our is it not everybody has that is it
Yeah. Okay. If someone feels it is not needed, it is directly contradicting the statements of the acharyas. If someone says, I will try my best and depend on Krishna to reveal, that is a good. Whether they understand or not, that's secondary. But at least they don't think that it is not needed for me. So if someone says it is not needed for me, uh, uh, then it's one aspect of Krishna. So if they I mean that there could be two extremes where someone gets stuck up completely that ये detail मुझे समझ में नहीं आ रहा है तो मैं आगे ही नहीं बढ़ूंगा और मेरा जपा का टाइम में भी वही सोचता रहूंगा. अगर वैसा है then that is one extreme. On the other extreme is ये सब टेक्निकल डिटेल जरूरत नहीं है, लीला आनंद दे रहा है मैं. So that is another extreme. Both are not right. I mean, we don't have to get stuck up, but at the same time, we should not think that these are not necessary. Because if it was not necessary, why would Shukadev Goswami waste Parikshit Maharaj's time? Especially when he has just 7 days to live, he might have directly zoomed into 10th canto discussion. So you may say Parikshit Maharaj asked, but even if Parikshit Maharaj asked, uh, Shukadev Goswami, uh, he's more obliged to deliver Parikshit Maharaj than to answer every single question of Parikshit Maharaj. So that obligation is not there because he has taken the role of guru. It is not necessary for him to oblige to every single question of Parikshit Maharaj. So he might have told, see, there is answer to these questions, but for you at your stage, not needed. I will tell you what is relevant for you. And Parikshit Maharaj would have agreed. And having said that, the whole thing is rigged. It's all orchestrated by Krishna. So the way in which the whole Bhagavatam is spoken, it is all very scientific. There is no redundancy there. Everything is but having, and one thing is building up to the next. The very purpose of, just like you may have first tomato soup to, appetize, and then some starter, whatever, like that. They have their role, and those who are experts in the art of, I can say cooking, they know exactly, why it is served. Whereas someone who just wants to fill his stomach, he may wonder, kya hai? Ek cheez main course, just get me roti sabzi, like that he may think. So yeah, as long as one side is to become so analytical that you don't appreciate simple things in devotional service, that is also incorrect. That's not a very healthy mode. But at the same time, to trivialize everything other than direct Krishna Katha is actually trivializing Shukadev Goswami, trivializing Krishna, trivializing Parikshit Maharaj, right? So I think, yeah. So both extremes are, see, as long as if they say that, directly concerning the second topic that we are discussing, if someone says, ये पास टाइम का यही लेवल है, मैं जो समझ रहा हूँ इतना ही है पास टाइम. If someone comes to such a conclusion, that is not correct. So if someone very respectfully thinks that there may be multiple levels of understanding this pastime, but I am relishing at my level, and with purification, the higher levels will be revealed. That is perfectly fine. So, is that? Pastimes.
So we release those
Not different, but there could be deeper understandings to these pastimes, which not in the words, but in our own digestion of those pastimes, in our own understanding of those pastimes, there is more depth. Not in the explanation. The same explanation may reveal deeper meanings with our progress. So, therefore, what I am understanding right now, with the same words spoken, will give a deep understanding maybe few years down the line if we are properly practicing Krishna consciousness. So yeah. So therefore, right now it is relishable, not that we should refuse to relish the pastime, but at the same time, to think that the past Krishna is thinking the same way, like Lakshmi Devi runs behind Jagannath Ji. The way we are relishing it is probably not the level at which the pastime itself is happening. I mean, not that Lakshmi Devi is not running behind Jagannath, she is, but the level at which I am relishing the pastime, there could be deeper levels. As long as we are open to accept that there could be a deeper level at which the pastime is enacted and experienced by the participants, that's fine. Not that we should refuse to relish at the level that we are. As long as we are willing to give the accept that there are higher levels at which it is relished.
When we came to Krishna consciousness, we got these pastimes. Nobody ever explained what like we relished. Is it that those like those who are new now, they also expect like that. We had a service program, his story was being discussed by all many practical aspects were given about and I was having problems. But at then I was okay.
Oh, you mean based on dealings between Vittal and Rukmini, you bring out lessons between
They were relating to the feelings like that, which we discussed here that they are totally another level.
correct. That is why the point is, as long as the speaker is taking some responsibility for the audience, and he or she knows himself or herself that yes, I know what I am doing. When the right time comes, I will take the responsibility of raising their level of understanding also. As long as that responsibility is taken, I think it's fine.
Explain all these.
That is why this is not, I would never speak it in a prerna class or something. yeah, this is not a prerna material. That is why this is chosen, because devotees have been practicing for at least 10 years, at least, maybe more than that. Some 20, 25 years they have been practicing. So this is definitely not a prerna class, and I would not speak this in a prerna class. But this is for our own personal understanding and nourishment. So yeah, for beginners, as long as the person is taking responsibility for their growth, I think a teacher can twist and turn, as long as when the problem comes, he is willing to do the problem solving. Then I think it's perfectly fine. And regarding another thing that you mentioned about in the initial days we did here, but I'm sure over a period of time with many experiences in Krishna consciousness, our own growth, and I'm sure certain internal changes would have certainly happened. We still relish those pastimes, but at a slightly different level. If we introspect, we will understand actually. Lessons. They give lessons. वो सही है कि नहीं? Yeah, again, well, just the speakers should understand that The speaker should understand that there is a danger of the audience bringing their lordships to their level. Yeah, yeah. See, actually, in one sense, if I'm just thinking how to say. The danger is always there, and if you are not, हम बोल के चले जाएंगे, and they will also think that अरे उनका स्तर पे भी ऐसा ही emotions चलता है, तो तो so that is why हाँ हाँ. So then the problem of Krishna marrying 16,108 wives, then if you, then that way, you know, everything will get validated, you know. So then you will find yourself very difficult to defend things. So that is why, if you see, it may be a little bit hard work, but if you actually read what our acharyas have given, Srila Prabhupada and the other acharyas, you can still give a class which is relatable to newcomers also. That just needs hard work. Otherwise, to create one's own lessons is the easiest thing to do. It's very easy. It's not very difficult actually. The harder thing to do is to try to understand what our acharyas have spoken, because that requires hard work. That requires some sattva guna to sit patiently and study and understand, and internalize and speak. The easiest thing is to connect some latest news, some latest thing, some mm, huh? And draw parallels. So that is the easier thing to do. But if devotees can, because you see in South India actually, there is one, many of you might know, one Sri Vaishnav speaker, Velukudi Krishnan. You might have heard his name, right? So there is zero masala in what he speaks, and he speaks in one sense monotone. There is not much of there is not much, facial expression also. So he speaks, but over a period of time, it has taken little time for the devotees to get used to. Devotees means what? Normal audience, public. He speaks in the television. He speaks in the television. I mean, it's not like, but still, it has taken some time. But there is such a big following. No masala, just pure katha. He speaks. Right now, he is speaking like 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Kshetra Kshetrajnayor evam, all those subject matters. Pure what Ramanujacharya says, that's all. Along with that, he will say, this katha will be in one of the 108 Divya Desham. So he will speak some Divya Desham katha connected to that topic, or it may not be connected also, whatever. 5 minutes this, 10 minutes philosophy. That's all. 15 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour maybe maximum. So he was once sharing that about his father. He comes from a family of very Sri Sampradaya saints, actually, those who were, those who went to Gurukul properly trained and with their acharya. They have served their acharyas personally, learned from them. And so his father was told, like, why don't you speak something which is the common public can relish, Thoda here, a little bit there, little bit, So he says that there are two ways of doing things. One is I come to their level and speak. and I may get stuck up there only. Or give me some time, I will pull them to my level. And you can see it happening. His own son is actually doing it. And after seeing that, people have gotten some confidence. There are many other Sri Vaishnav qualified speakers, they are following it. No. So he has set the standard now. So now, even if the audience are like that, because my parents and all my relatives for the last 10, 15 years, they have been hearing. So if another Sri Vaishnava speaker comes and puts little masala also, they immediately think that this is not bona fide. So it's all how people get conditioned. How they get conditioned. It takes some time to recondition people. That's all. So once they get reconditioned, then they get used to it. So it just takes some time, that's all.
What's he think? Oh, English में बस हो गया है.
Oh, acha. Now, okay.
Everything like Jagannath will have a meeting. Jagannath जाते हैं और अभी तो कुछ चोरी करना है, चोरी करना है. तो every day like cross questions.
So these sessions have become a thorn in the yeah. No, we don't need to analyze, but at the same time, it is just to understand that the pastime is not just. There are deeper levels of understanding the pastime. Just that's all. वही बोल रहा हूँ अभी. It's meant for relishing, but when we progress, we will relish it at deeper levels. That's the point. So, जैसे homeopathic medicine है, homeopath तो नहीं है, तो no one will get offended. So, कोई homeopathic medicine के लिए मतलब fever के लिए homeopathic medicine ले रहा है. So he is already suffering. As soon as he puts that tablet in his mouth, he will relish it at one level. क्योंकि कुछ sweet है. It is sweet. There is relish at that level. But as time progresses, when the medicine acts, there is relish at a much more deeper level. When his fever goes down. So not that one should not relish that that sweet taste of that homeopathic medicine. Relish it, but don't think that that is what the medicine is. The effect of the medicine is not just that much. It will much more than that. So just to appreciate that. That's all. Anything else? Reading or general. Yeah. Aditya, why are you late?
It may not be useful for preaching, and then for punctual arrangement.
Mataji has to sit there. Yeah, continue, bro. Go ahead.
No, I think if you're studying for teaching, then only study at that level.
That's a very valid point. That's a correct. That's a very valid point, because generally, so Shamli Mataji mentioned that if we are studying for preaching, then then it remains at that level. Actually, this is a very it's a real issue ISKCON preachers are facing in today's day and age, because right from the beginning they are used to read for preparing for classes. So therefore, this I know because I travel to various temples and I have addressed the brahmacharis there for Bhagavatam and brahmachari classes. So this is a standard problem everywhere. In every single temple, this is a problem because the preachers are trained and groomed uh, in a particular way for preaching, and practically most of them have not taken um, further responsibility to read for nourishment in a systematic way. So for them, preparation means for class. So आज कौन सा टॉपिक है? आज श्रीवास ठाकुर का अपीयरेंस डे है, सो प्रिपेयर फॉर दैट. सो भागवतम क्लास का एक दो पॉइंट है, उसमें डू अ फोलियो सर्च, उसके बारे में किधर किधर है, like that. I mean, at least it used to be like that before. Now things have little bit improved, but in the long run, this is not very healthy because the most important aspect of a particular verse that we are quoting is the context of that verse. So when we do this kind of preparation, we lose the context many of the times. So therefore, the proper message may not be communicated. So this has to be in the long run changed. So it is happening slowly. It is happening with even those temples where preaching is the essence, was the main message, and therefore practically everyone prepared. Whatever studies happened was practically only for preaching. Now it is changing. They have realized. So their leaders, they took training. So now it's like properly all brahmacharis are trained in systematic understanding of the Shastras, and they are incorporating it in their preaching also. So that correct. Well, the only thing is, if it get carried over to the other audience also, the core audience also. So that is where we need to, when a particular preacher is involved in reaching out to newcomers or outsiders, those who are outside ISKCON, then we should understand that if they should learn to play both roles properly. Otherwise, we will end up confusing. One of the parties actually. Like either we will end up confusing the outsiders by seeming very insensitive in our presentation, or we may confuse the insiders by diluting and telling lot of things for which they should not focus. Actually, ideally, they should be focusing on something else. So many times this transition becomes a problem because people primarily speak to one audience. So they carry over that style and that preparation to the other audience also, and it becomes a problem actually. So what happens, like you gave a particular example, so I will speak on that example. So whether some of those life lessons may be Acharya's lessons, some of those lessons may not be. So when you speak those lessons which are not necessarily Acharya's lessons to a core audience, core practitioners, they will hear with the understanding that this must be some Acharya's commentary only. This must be an Acharya's lesson only, whereas not necessarily. So then the problem is, then they will speak it out. So they will speak it as if it is given in Ramayana, whereas it may not be. So that's where the problem comes. So we need to know our audience, and it's always better to give proper disclaimers in order to protect. If you don't give the disclaimers, then it will lead to major confusions actually. And that's what I feel.
Exactly like Rajiv Dixit, he told always about Bhagavad Acharya. Acharya Bhagavad takes this. First he takes everything. And at last he told his own age Westerners, and this is taking all your money from America. They were very much confused.
Who is
Rajiv Dixit.
okay?
Rajiv Dixit, the idea.
Okay.
Ayurveda.
Who propagated Ayurveda? Okay. Okay.
And he got developed amongst many mediums.
Okay.
And at last we got Westerners.
See,
Everyone consider that this is the authentic information. This is true to our knowledge.
yeah, see, even recently someone sent me a video that some verse of 12th canto verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, where this devotee says that, not devotee, so he says that ISKCON people, you can trap them with this particular verse, because the 12th canto verse says that we are going to discuss that verse today. So what our acharyas say. So people are getting agitated that we have to refute. सब लोग एक दूसरे को बोल रहे हैं, अरे इसको refute करना है, and they are within ISKCON, they are spreading this video so much, and but no one is opening that verse and reading the purport and seeing what is the explanation Kilapada has given. So one brahmachari sent it to me yesterday only, day before yesterday. And he said, Prabhu, isko refute karna hai, iska ek video banao. So what happened is, he accepted the same explanation that that person is given on that. मैंने बोला, आपने बुक खोल के कभी पढ़ा क्या, उसका purport क्या लिखा है? So this is where this whole agitation as, us versus them kind of creation, when people create like that, either it is Hindu versus Muslim, or dharmic versus adharmic. So where people are kept agitated in Rajogun, so whereas with such an agitation, people will not get the enthusiasm to in Sattva Guna to sit and study. They will just get agitated. So practically, then 2-3 people sent me the same video telling, कुछ करो. अरे आप एक ही चीज करना है, बुक को खोल के पढ़ो तो उसमें क्या लिखा है. You have to just open the book and read. You have so much time to forward the video to everyone. कुछ करो बोल के, मतलब कुछ खाली बुक को खोलो, पढ़ो उसमें क्या लिखा है उसमें. So you are so willing to accept what the other person is telling, but you don't have so much enthusiasm to read what your own acharya has written about it. So this is the sad state actually. So नहीं, वही एक चीज माता जी इसके बारे में नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है. See, there are, I think we did discuss on this. There is rights and responsibilities of speaker and hearer. These are important. So, as a hearer, it is your responsibility to ask the reference. You can ask. I think in one of the counselors meeting, I think yeah, correct. Yeah, So it is your, and in a non-offensive way, you can always ask, Prabhuji, ये कौन सा आचार्य का lesson है, पूछ सकते हैं आप.
While speaking, also we can say this is my thought.
As a speaker, we should never give the audience the opportunity to exercise this right. You should tell who says. Otherwise, we are taking our own position as very exalted, which is not correct actually. So, and it's not that the acharya not commented on these things. So many acharyas have commented. अगर आपको प्रभुपाद ने कमेंट नहीं किया तो विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर को चेक करो. विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर ने कमेंट नहीं किया तो जीव गोस्वामी का चेक करो. At least some acharyas would have commented on it. So it's not that no acharya would have commented on this particular thing. So so therefore we should definitely, we should not give them an opportunity to say that to ask where is the reference. I mean, it will take just 2 seconds more, na? Either Valmiki directly says in Ramayana, or we can say Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in Bhagavatam. And 1 second extra. It just gives so much more authenticity, and the person who is hearing is at peace. Okay. Like that.
Very clear. You can hear that. So very clear. The mood, they are at which mood they are releasing their part. You are not at that mood.
Correct.
So you have to follow practically, follow our channel.
Yeah.
Whether Prabhupada or go to higher mood, follow our channel.
Yeah. Correct.
Ekadashi is not followed in
Ekadashi is not followed in
Jagannath.
Jagannath Puri. Ekadashi is not followed in Radha Vallabh Sampradaya, Radha Vallabh temple. So Maharaj said, Sri Sampradaya. I mean, of course, they eat wheat and everything. Even rice as dosa they eat. No, that is fine. Matlab, it is their acharya. They are following their acharya's teachings. That's fine. Yeah. So they eat chapati, puri, and dosa, idli in that form they can eat. Direct boiled rice they don't eat. So these practices vary from sampradaya to sampradaya. We should follow our sampradaya. That's all. Anything else before we move on to the third reason?
So Prabhuji, about this folk tale, about Lord's pastime, only there are some local kathas. So this also we have been like told that whatever you growing your devotion, maybe there are bhajans which are not from our if it helps you, you can stay here and grow, especially about the students. It's like,
Yeah, I understand, Mataji. Better to get it validated from some senior Vaishnava. So whether the mood is in line. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, if you have heard it from a senior, you can accept.
teaching by you're using the teaching.
No, I once typed. I'm getting exactly the same sentence. Here I hear from some, this Katha people here, he nourishing your heart here.
Hey, was it asked in a public forum?
No, it's no.
No,
One to one.
One-to-one it was asked.
Maharaj was talking to you one to one.
And also,
Maharaj follow only our very clear, sir.
and also that is also Maharaj knows that personality.
Yeah, Maharaj knows.
Maharaj may not give this answer to everyone
No.
because Maharaj knows Gaurang Sundar Prabhu. He knows him personally, right? So if it may not be a common answer for everyone also.
No, you are shifting to Basa.
Yeah.
You are attached to.
Yeah.
You follow assignment. You don't follow, you have to follow.
That instruction is given to
somebody like
Yeah.
It's 24 hours Krishna consciously.
Yeah. Okay. So we will move on to the third topic. Okay. So the third reason that we are going to discuss today is how Bhagavatam accomplishes multiple purposes through multiple topics. So why the prime theme we're discussing is why all these topics. Because Bhagavatam actually accomplishes multiple purposes through these multiple topics. How we are going to see now. We are going to take one example. We are going to directly read from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti's commentary on the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, 1.1.1, Janmadhyasya Yatonvayad verse. So in that, he is going to give 5 different explanations of that verse. Yeah. So, and he gives very valuable commentary that how Bhagavatam functions. So basically, as Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Krishna Tulya Bhagavata Vibhu Sarvashray Prati Shloke Prati Akshare Nana Arthaka. So there are multiple meanings. Every single syllable of Bhagavatam communicates, which Acharyas are qualified to decipher and reveal it to us. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti is revealing 5 different meanings of the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam to us. So we will not go into detail of this. I am cutting short the commentary and only the relevant part of the commentary I am putting, but just so that there is a continuity to what we are discussing. So I will just go through the meanings. That's all. We will not go into detail. Okay. So the first, so we are going to discuss on this verse 1.1.1. Janmadhyasya yatonvayadi taratas charteshu abhigya swarat tene brahma hridaya adi kavaye muyyanti yat surayah tejo vari mridam yata vinimayo yatra trisargo mrisha dhamna svena sada nirasta kuhakam satyam param dhimahi. Okay. So here, the first explanation that Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti gives is, so this is the Vastu Nirdesh shloka of Srimad Bhagavatam. Vastu Nirdesh means ascertaining what is the prime subject matter of this book. Ascertaining what is the subject matter of this book. So he says that this is the Vastu Nirdesh shloka, and this ascertains that Bhagavan is the Vastu of the book. So he explains this verse as Satyam Param Dhimahi. Let us meditate upon the absolute truth, Bhagavan or Krishna. So, Janma Adi Asya Yataha. Who is the cause of Janma Adi? Janma means Janma, Shrishti, Sthiti, Pralaya. Creation, maintenance, and destruction. So, Janma is Srishti. Janma Adi is Srishti Adi. Srishti, Sthiti, Pralaya. Right? Who is the cause of creation, maintenance, and destruction of the universe? Anvayad Itaratah. Anvayad means the direct, which is material cause, and Itaratah means the efficient cause. Like the clay in a pot, clay is the direct cause, the Upadana Karan. The potter is the efficient cause. So clay in itself will not become pot. So you need a material cause and an efficient cause. And of course, there is an instrumental cause also, the potter's wheel and the stick. Okay. So it's called a Sahakari. Sahakari Karan. Yeah, that is all instrumental. So, but you need a potter who knows how to use the raw material and the instruments to create a pot, So the pot is the end product, but there are the potter is the efficient cause, the clay is the material cause, and the potter's wheel and stick, they're the instrumental cause, Sahakari Karan. So Janmadi Asya Yataha, the Lord is both the material and efficient cause of this universe. Okay. Why? How? Arteshu Abhignaha, because he is the knower of all the objects. He is the knower of all the objects, so he can use all those objects to create a fully functional universe, maintain it, and destroy it. Okay. And Swarat, he is the only independent being. He is not dependent on anything of this material world, so he can manipulate everything of this world to create a functional universe. Right? Yaha Tene Brahma. Brahma here refers to the Vedas. He revealed the Vedas to Adi Kavi. Adi Kavi is Brahma. Within his mind, he revealed the Vedas. Okay. Muyyanti Yat Surayah. And this Bhagavan, or the Supreme Lord, is very difficult even for the learned people to understand. Muyyanti Yat Surayah. Yatra Trisargo, whose body is thought to be made of matter. Why? Mrisha, due to illusion. Mrisha means false. His body is falsely thought to be made of matter. So just like all of us, right? Tejo vari mridam yata vinimayo. Just as one mistakes fire, water, and earth for each other. Like for example, what do you call that? Mirage, right? So mirage is a combination of fire in the form of sun and air, and you think it is water, right? You see it as water. And Svena Dhamna. Dhamna can refer to form, it can refer to abode, both. So by his form and abode, Nirasta Kuhakam. Kuhakam means false arguments. False arguments means that which describes the abode of the Lord to be ordinary material city or village, and the Lord's form to be made of matter. So by his form, by revealing his form and his dham to qualified people, he negates all false arguments about Krishna's form and his dham. Okay. This is, we will not go into detail of this, but this is describing in general Bhagavan as the subject matter of this book. The next explanation that he gives is establishing Krishna as the vastu of this book, Krishna specifically. So how he explains this? Satyam Param Dhimahi. Let us meditate on Krishna, who is known as Satyam. What is that 10th canto Garbhastuti prayers? There is this, what is that verse? Trisatyam, Satyasya Satyam. It says Satyam, 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 Satyam comes that in that particular verse, glorifying Krishna. So he's called as Satya. Let us meditate on Krishna, who is known as Satya, Yaha, who Svena Dhamna, through his abode Mathura and by revelation of his form to his devotees. Again, Dham has two meanings. Sada Nirasta Kuhakam, one to whom the Lord's Dham and form are revealed, he will come out of ignorance. Right? Yatra Trisargo Tejo Vari Mridam Yata Vinimayo Amrisha, whose body, even though appearing to be material to the demons, Amrisha. So if you see the verse itself, it is Mrisha with a it is read as Trisargo Mrisha. Okay, but Trisargo Mrisha can be broken as Trisargo Amrisha or Trisargo Mrisha. So in the previous explanation, it was taken as Mrisha, illusion. But in the second explanation, it is taken as Amrisha. It is not temporary at all. Right? Asya Janma Adi Yataha. Asya Janma refers here to Krishna's Janma. In Mathura, after appearing in Vasudev's house, Yataha, after that, Itarataha cha anu ayad. Itarataha means to the other place, he went to the other place. Anvayad can be taken as anu ayad. he followed to another place, which is Vrindavan, to the place of Nanda Maharaj. Right? I mean, don't try to understand, but just a bit. Okay. So, and Arteshu Abhignaha. Abhignaha means knowing. Arteshu means the subject matter. So Krishna knew. Why did he go from Mathura to Vrindavan? Because he perfectly knew how to cheat Kamsa. And who, knowing the appearance of the devotees Prema in Braja, that the devotees in Vrindavan are the ones who can perfectly appreciate my appearance and my pastimes. So therefore, Arteshu Abhigya means perfectly cognizant of how to cheat Kamsa and perfectly cognizant of the qualification of the residents of Vrindavan. Anu Ayad. He went from Mathura to Vrindavan. Swarat. Even though he knew the qualification of the Brajavasis, but still he is Swarat. He is controlled by their love, but at the same time that does not challenge his position as being independent. Right? He is Swarat. So because if you say he is controlled by the Brajavasis' prem for him, that's why he went there. Does it make Krishna dependent? No. He is independent. So therefore Swarat is mentioned. He said. Yaha Tene, he who revealed Brahma, that the cows and the calves were actually the supreme Brahman to Adikavi Brahma by his will, Prada. This refers to Brahma Vimohan Leela. Okay. Muhyanti Yat Surya, which bewilders even persons such as Narada Muni. How could he do it? You know, when he saw Krishna in Dwaraka, he was bewildered. So one Sri Vaishnava Acharya, he mentions that in that conversation, so Narada Muni comes and asks Krishna, Krishna, how do you do it? I just want to know. How do you exactly do it? Because 16,100 palaces in which you have to do, how do you do it? And Krishna, there is this internal conversation that the Acharya mentions. Krishna says, if you just think about it, it's very easy to understand. So Narada Muni did not understand it. So Narada Muni, according to this particular Acharya, learned the art of expanding from Saubari Muni. So he expanded himself into hundreds of forms, and he was parallelly present in not all, at least many of those palaces, and he was observing. And after that whole thing happened, he was still bewildered. And he asked Krishna, how could you do it? And he said, I told you, if you just think about it, it's not very difficult to understand. So he said, can you please explain? Krishna says, you are a Jivatma. If you could expand into 100 forms and parallelly be present in 100 palaces, I am not a Jivatma like you. Wouldn't it be possible for me to expand into 16,108 forms and be in these palaces? It's not difficult for me. But still, Muhyanti Yat Surya, even persons like Narada Muni get bewildered, right? Who revealed that the cows and calves were actually Supreme Brahman to Brahma by his will. That is another meaning of Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikavayi. Muhyanti Yat Surya. Even persons like Narada Muni get bewildered by this. So this is the second meaning. So where by this first verse he establishes the Vastu of this book is primarily Krishna. Krishna of Vrindavan. Third explanation, establishing Madhura Rasa or Madhurya Rasa as the actual Vastu of this book. At a deeper level it is. So he says, Satyam Param Dhimahi, let us meditate on Krishna. Yataha, from whom Janma arises. Adyasya. Madhura Rasa is called the Adi Rasa. And Prabhupada writes this in the purport also, if you remember. Right. So from whom arises Madhura Rasa? How? Anvayad Itarataha. Anvayad means through meeting, and Itarataha means through separation. Through meeting and separation, through Sambhoga and Vipralamba, this Madhura Rasa is experienced. But it arises from Krishna, who is Satyam Param Dhimahi, who is Satyam Param, who is the absolute truth. How does this manifest from Krishna? Because Krishna is Arteshu Abhigyaha. He is the cognizant of the subject matter. Which subject matter? All that is needed for a person to know about Madhura Rasa, Rasa in general, is Arteshu Abhigya. So here Artha refers to the subject matter of Rasa. He is Akhila Rasamrita Murti. He is Arteshu Abhigya. Therefore, from him arises the original Rasa. And Swarat, he is beyond the material realm. Okay. And that Rasa is also beyond the material, not material Rasa. Yahat Hrida Tene, who conveyed from his heart to the heart of Adi Kavi. Adi Kavi here is Bharat Muni. Bharat Muni is the Bharatanatyam. Yeah. So he is the one, the original treatise on Rasa was written by Bharat Muni. Subsequently, he must be a contemporary. I mean, through his heart, Krishna is eternal, right? Not during his Baumalila. Not during his Baumalila. Right? Sarvasya Chaham Hridi Sannivishto. So, like that, he was in the heart of Bharat Muni also. And Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye. So he conveyed to Bharat Muni the same Madhura Rasa, Muyyanti Yat Suraya, about which the other poets are very bewildered. You know. Tejo Vari Mridam Yata Yatra Trisargo Vinimayo, in whom alone arises the three types of literary meaning in extraordinary form, Amrisha. So he explained what are these three different meanings of a particular literary meaning that you can take. He explains in his purport. We will not get into this. Sada Nirasta Kuhakam, and who defeats the withered arguers, means those who are in argumentative mood. Swena Dhamna, who defeats the withered arguers by the extraordinary influence of the experience of Madhura Rasa. He defeats them means what? He saves those who have experienced Madhura Rasa will never be defeated by them. Those who have become qualified to experience Rasa, they will not be influenced by the other, by self-experience, by their own experience of self-experience of Madhura Rasa. You will never see a person who has actually experienced Rasa to actually fall trap to Mayavad and other such things. Because that experience defeats. Yeah. Yeah. That defeats the other arguments.
Somebody who understands the verse this level should also understand the verse at the first.
Yes.
Vice versa,
not necessary. Yeah. So this is the third level of understanding. Third.
Because then there is something absolute there, even in the understanding of scriptures. If suppose I understand this. No, you understand it this way, I understand it this way.
That is why, Mataji, there is one thing. We cannot discuss these topics unless we understand and accept that you and me are different from Srila Prabhupada and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Unless that acceptance is there, there is no purpose to these meetings, actually. Because if we speak, we will speak our understanding based on some understanding of our language or something. When they speak, when they are writing what Krishna is directly revealing to them. So, a prerequisite to this Sangha is actually understanding and acceptance of their level as being very exalted. And as Prabhupada says, I did not write, Krishna wrote. So someone tried to change. Oh, so he speaks to a reporter, and one of his disciples, oh, he means that Krishna inspired him. Why are you changing my word? Krishna wrote. So for you and me, Krishna may not write right now, maybe in future. So, so, I mean, certainly, I don't think. I mean, you cannot say teen tweets or what is I forgot the name. What is the green book? Green book, I remember. So, I mean, we cannot say, you can say that Krishna inspired, but we cannot say Krishna wrote, right? But for these personalities, Krishna writes. He reveals actually the meanings. For us, we try with our intelligence to, like that. So therefore, broken words. Yeah. They are, yeah. So therefore, this is a prerequisite actually. So we have to understand who these personalities are. They are directly manjaris from the spiritual world. They are not ordinary persons. We may perfect our practice and eventually become manjaris in future. But right now we are not. But for them, even during their manifest presence in this material world, they were manjaris only. So therefore,
Same word.
yeah, and can mean, yeah. So that's why 18 explanations to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, 61 explanations to Sanatana Goswami. And then after that, you know what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says in that particular Atmaram verse explanation. After this, we will read that. We'll go to Chaitanya Charitamrita and read that what conversation happens between, because that is very critical. That is very critical for modern day commentators to understand what is the qualification for commentary. मैंने 61 different reasons दिया. So what is the qualification for someone to come and give the 60-second explanation? Who is qualified? Yeah? So that we will read after we go through these 5 different explanations. So this is the third explanation where he gives that, oh, Bhagavatam has no other purpose than to speak about Madhurya Rasa. That's all, right? So now the fourth explanation he gives that, oh, Bhagavatam is there to establish Radha and Krishna as the vastu of this book, where there is no mention of Radharani's name only. Right? So there is no mention of her name, but he says that this is talking about Radha and Krishna. How? Nirasta kuhakam, without deceit, satyam, in a manner. Param, aspiring for the highest goal. Dhimahi, we meditate on Radha and Krishna. Yataha, from whom arises Janma, Adyasya, from whom arises the height of Madhura Rasa. Itaratascha, itarata means others. By giving up the others, Anu Ayad, Krishna went behind, following only her. Arteshu Abhigyaha. Arteshu Abhigyaha means he is an expert in, because he followed her because he was expert in the chief aspects of rasa. Therefore, he followed her. And Radharani exhibited herself as an independent lover, Swarat. Okay, that is the meaning of Swarat. Okay. Yaha Tene, and Krishna imparted Hrida, through the heart, to Adi Kavi. Here Adi Kavi refers to Shukadeva Goswami. In one case it was Brahma, in another case also it was Brahma, the third case it was Bharat Muni, and now it is Shukadeva Goswami. Okay, so Krishna imparted through the heart to Shukadeva Goswami the knower of rasa from birth, Adi Kavi, right from the beginning. Brahma here refers to Bhagavatam. Muyanti yat surayah. So here Muyanti means not bewildered in a bad sense. Here Muyanti means they faint in ecstasy, hearing which. Surayah refers to pure devotees. Right? And they undergo transformation just as fire, water, and earth reverse their properties. Right? Yamuna stunted, the stones start melting and flowing, right? Like that. So Yatra Svena Dhamna, by whose influence the three Shaktis remain eternally. Sada Amrisha, they remain eternally by the influence of Radha and Krishna. The three Shaktis, Sandhi, Samvit, Sandhini, and Radhini remain eternally present.
There is exact opposite one. Temporary. Amrisha was not temporary.
Yeah.
Not
Mrisha is false. Amrisha is eternal,
eternal.
true. Eternal is also one meaning, true is also another meaning. So this is, anyway, this is the fourth explanation that he gives. Okay, as Radha and Krishna to be the subject matter of this book. Then fifth, he establishes bhakti as the vastu of this book. The subject matter, what is Bhagavatam talking about? Bhakti. So he says, Satyam Param Dhimahi. Dhimahi, let us meditate upon Satyam. Satyam means the most beneficial spiritual process, which is Param. Param means Trigunatit. The only Trigunatit process is Bhakti. Traigunya Vishaya Vedanis Traigunya Bhavarjuna. Right? So let us meditate on the most beneficial spiritual process, which is beyond the gunas, Bhakti. That is the meaning of Satyam Param Dhimahi. Okay. Yataha Adyasya Janma, which brings about the appearance of the Lord. Bhaktyamam Abhijanati Yavanyastasmi Tattvam. So by Bhakti, it brings appearance of Krishna. Anvayad, directly as Bhagavan. And Itaratascha means along with the direct realization of Bhagavan, indirectly Paramatma and Brahman realization are also accomplished. This is what Prabhupada always says. You don't have to separately try to understand Paramatma and Brahman. By understanding the Bhagavan feature, automatically the Paramatma and Brahman feature also. So directly Bhagavan is realized, indirectly the Brahman and Paramatma are realized. Arteshu Abhigyaha, which is complete knowledge, and Swarat, it is independent of the other processes. Bhakti is not dependent on karma, jnana, yoga, anything. So that is the meaning of Swarat. Bhakti is Swarat. Right? Yaha Tene, which was revealed to Brahma. No, not in that sense. I just said that those discussions cannot be skipped. That is the point. So realization, so for us, along with realizing Krishna, we will realize the other aspects also. But at the same time, sections of Bhagavatam which directly speak about the Paramatma aspect should not be neglected. That is the point that we are discussing. So he says, which was revealed by Narada to Vyasa. Here Adi Kavi refers to Vyasa. So in 5 different explanations, there are 4 different Adi Kavis. Right? So Muyanti Yat Suraya, but which is bewildering even to the other great sages who may not be pure devotees. Yatra Trisargo Vrisha Tejovari Mridam Yatavinimano, which is not mixed with the 3 gunas. Bhakti is not mixed with the 3 gunas.
Water does not mix with fire, fire does not mix with fire.
Correct. Yeah. Sada Nirasta Kuhakam. And it always defeats its opponents. How? Svena Dhamna, by its very nature of giving direct experience of bliss. Pratyaksha Pratyakshaavagamam dharmyam susukam kartum abhyayam. So, by one who has directly experienced the bliss of bhakti will not fall prey to any false arguments. So, one who has spent time surrendered to a bona fide guru, has tried in at least little capacity, tried to serve the guru and Vaishnavas, and has tried to serve the deities. You know, these kind of videos that other people may send, it will save us. Because direct experience, pratyaksha. So we say that we understand that this person is criticizing Prabhupada, and what we are doing, we are actually spreading the message more, and we are hearing that person criticizing Srila Prabhupada. So, so by its direct experience of bliss, it defeats the other opponents. So in this way, anyway, we may not have understood all the 5 meanings. That is not the point here. So the point is, he gives these 5 different explanations, and then he says, now is the real point that what I wanted to communicate here. He says, Bhagavatam is compared to a lamp in the following verse. Just give me 1 second. Yeah. Lamp, sun, it is compared to, no, not flower. Lamp, sun, fruit, ripened fruit, and Mohini Murti. Okay. Okay. So here he says that Bhagavatam is compared to a lamp in the following verse. Okay, lamp, right? So where he says that Yas Swanubhavam Akila Shruti Saramekam Adhyatma Deepam Atititir Shatam Tamondam Samsarinam Karunaha Purana Guhyam Tam Vyasa Sonu Upayami Gurum Muninam. So he says, so anyway, we will not get into the details of this, but here he says, here he is comparing it to Adhyatma Deepam. Deepam means lamp. Okay. So, so Atititir Shatam Tamondam, for those who are desiring to cross over the ocean of material existence, Bhagavatam acts as a lamp. Okay. Then Bhagavatam is also compared to the sun, right? Krishne Swadhamo Upagate Dharma Jnanadibhissaha Kalau Nashtadrisham Esha Purana Arko Adhuna Uditaha. Right? Krishne Swadhamo Upagate. After Krishna chose to depart to his abode after completing his pastimes in this material world, Dharma Jnanadibhissaha, along with the Dharma Jnana and all that Krishna endowed with Dharma Jnana and all the energies when he decided to go back to his abode. Kalau Nashtadrisham, for the residents of Kali who had lost their vision because of Krishna, the sun, deciding to depart. Yesha Purana Arkaha, this sun, this Purana, which is also like a sun, has now arisen as a replacement for Krishna. So here Bhagavatam is compared to the sun. In the previous verse, Bhagavatam was compared to a lamp. Bhagavatam is also, Bhagavatam is also compared to a tasty fruit. Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam. Shukamukad amrita drava sangyutam. Right? So it is compared to a ripened fruit, which is absolutely relishable. So this is the third comparison. So Bhagavatam is lamb, Bhagavatam is sun, Bhagavatam is a tasty fruit. Bhagavatam is also compared to Mohini Avatar. Okay. Bhagavatam is compared to Mohini Avatar because it gives different results to different people. Like Mohini Murti gave to the Devatas Amrita, and to the demons, she cheated them, right? So that video which is being circulated now, he is speaking about this verse, this particular verse. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains this verse is the Mohini Murti verse. No doubt this verse is being quoted and misinterpreted. I will read this verse. Adi Madhya Avasaneshu Vairagya Akyana Samyutam Hari Leela Katha Vrata Mrita Anandita Satsuram Sarva Vedanta Saram Yad Brahma Atma Ekatva Lakshanam Vastu Advitiyam Tadnishtam Kaivalya Eka Prayojanam. So this verse says Eka Prayojanam, the only goal of Bhagavatam is Kaivalya. What is Kaivalya? Huh? Kaivalya means merging in the Brahman. Right? This is how Bhagavatam wants them to understand. But Kaivalya also comes from the word Kevala. Kevala means that which is untainted. That untainted Dham, which is not tainted with any matter. Kaivalya Eka Prayojanam. So it is, Bhagavatam wants them to get bewildered. That is the purpose of Bhagavatam. Kaivalya Eka Prayojanam. And then it says that Brahma Atma Ekatva Lakshanam. Brahman, Atma, Jiva, Ekatva Lakshanam. So there is no difference between Brahman and Atma. Aham Brahmasmi. This is how Bhagavatam wants them to read this verse. This is like the one verse which summarizes what Bhagavatam talks about. So Prabhupada always said Brahma, Atma, Ekatva Lakshanam, qualitative oneness. Qualitative oneness. So we will read Vastu Advitiyam. They take this to mean, you see, the Bhagavatam, in the end of Bhagavatam says that Bhagavatam subscribes to the Advaita philosophy. Advitiyam. Last chapter, 12th canto, last chapter, one of the last verses, which summarizes what Bhagavatam talks about. It says Advaita, it says Kaivalya, it says Brahma, Atma, Ekatva. Three things. Okay. And therefore she says Mohini. This is the Mohini Murti verse. This is the explanation of our acharyas. Because it gives them explicitly an opportunity to understand it improperly. Okay. This is Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. This is, I think, Sutta Goswami, last chapter. Yeah, summarizing. So I will read the purport of this verse. I will read the purport of this verse, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's explanation of this. Okay, I will share the screen with you. Okay. So that which you see in black is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's explanation of this. From the beginning to end, the Srimad Bhagavatam is full of the Lord's pastimes, which gives bliss to devotees endowed with the sense of renunciation. Vairagya Akyana Samyutam. And that renunciation is Bhakti Pareshanubhavo Viraktir Anyatra Chesha Trikayeka Kala, which is naturally a byproduct of one's practice of bhakti. This Bhagavatam is the essence of all Vedanta philosophy. Why? Because its subject matter is one Brahman, a substance with no duality. Vastu Advitiyam. The main goal of the work is merging. Kaivalya Eka Prayojanam. Now you see the explanation. This verse speaks of the subject matter and goal. The host of topics concerning the pastimes of the Lord is sweet. Amrita Brata. That's how it is explained. The devotees who are called Devatas become blissful because of these topics. Satsuram. Satsuram means, Suras means devotees, it means Devatas also. The subject of these topics is Bhakti, and Bhakti is sweet nectar, that is why it is called as Amrita. The goal is Prema, because by Prema one can taste the sweetness of Bhakti Rasa. So that is why it is called as Amrita. The phrase, it gives bliss to the devotees, means that the devotees experience of Prema. By the use of the word nectar and Devatas, the Bhagavatam gives nectar to the devotees is indicated. By this, the scripture's nature as Mohini is indicated. Since she is famous for giving nectar to the Devatas. Okay, that is why Amrita Anandita Satsuram.
That is there in the verse.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what that is the line. Satsuram. And then she says, with a movement of her brow to the devotees who know her identity, unseen by others, she says, so Mohini Murti is telling to the devotees, appearing in this way, I must be favorable to you. Cheating the demons, I will give you nectar. Right. So, as Mohini Murti, she does the role of giving nectar to the devotees and cheating the demons also. Okay.
Bhakti as such is expected, it's a service hidden.
Yeah.
Something that is obvious.
It's not obvious. It is not obvious. It is not meant to be obvious actually. By moving her eyebrows at the demons who do not know her identity, she says clearly. So Mohini Murti is telling the demons, by my appearance, you should gain victory. That's why, that's what they are doing. Look, we have defeated ISKCON, we have defeated, ISKCON exposed, like that. Giving you nectar is a secondary affair. Nectar तो आपको nectar से मतलब है कि मेरे से मतलब है, what, like that. So giving you nectar is a secondary affair. The main thing is that I will constantly give you astonishing bliss while you remain householders. I will serve a little nectar first to these lowly devatas. Similarly, the Bhagavatam in half a verse, speaking of the giving the devotees the nectar of his pastimes, indicates the goal of Bhagavatam. But the Lord has also said, Parokshavada Rishayaha Paroksham Mamacha Priyam. The Vedic seers and mantras deal in esoteric terms, and I also am pleased by such confidential descriptions. Because here, Suta Goswami could have directly chosen to use words like Prema to discuss, to mention Amrita. Instead of Amrita, he could have used Prema. Instead of using Sat Suram, he could have used Bhakta. Instead of using Kaivalya, he could have directly used Bhakti. But he purposefully uses this because Bhagavatam has to play the role of Mohini Murti also, right? How will the demons be bewildered? So, thus, having said what is unnoticed by most people, he speaks another subject and goal for the person who does not know the Lord but thinks he knows the scriptures. This is exactly what they do. These ISKCON people don't know. It is the essence of all the Vedantas, which is oneness with Brahman, an object of non-duality. The work has Brahman as its subject and merging in Brahman as its main goal. This is how the demons have to see. Right? That is why it is compared to Mohini Murti. So, some people explain as follows. Because this scripture speaks of both bhakti and jnana, After speaking of the subject and goal of bhakti and prema, subject and goal, which is subject is bhakti, goal is prema. The work then speaks of jnana, and the goal of jnana is merging in the impersonal Brahmajyoti, which is kaivalyam. So this is one explanation. तो आपके बारे में भी बोल रहा है, हमारे बारे में भी बोल रहा है. Second line is about jnana, like that. Jnana. Some people explain it this. Yeah, you gain jnana. Yeah, yeah. Others explain as follows. At the beginning of this work, it is understood from the second verse that bhakti is the subject with the word dharmabjita kaitavotra. Bhakti is the only explanation. And from the same verse with the word sadhyo hridyavaruddhate atrakriti, it is understood that prema is the goal. Thus, by the predominance of bhakti over jnana and liberation, its goal, in the whole work, bhakti is indicated as the main subject and prema as the main goal. It is also necessary to give an esoteric meaning to the verse so it becomes suitable for devotees in the manner of Mohini's appearance to both parties. Both thought, Mohini is in my side. The meaning Tadnishtam is as follows. The work remains having given up Brahman and merging. This work remains having given up Brahman and merging. The work has as its goal only the mode of exclusive devotion. Kaivalya. Kaivalya means Kevala Bhakti. Devoid of Jnana, Karma and Swarga. So this is the understanding of the devotees. Okay. And where it comes. So Tannishtam Vastu Advitiyam Brahma Ekatva Lakshanam Sarva Vedanta Saramya Pratanandita Vairagya Kyana Samyutam Harilila Kratavratam Pratanandita Satsam Sarva Vedanta. Nishtam is there. Maybe it must be a part of one of the previous verses. Maybe it's connecting. We have to see. Like that. Anyway, so the point is, this verse is actually plays the role of Mohini Murti also. Right. So Prabhupada didn't comment. Prabhupada only till the 10th canto, 13th chapter. And other Acharyas have followed the explanations of Srila Vishnu Jagadakur Jiva Goswami like that. Huh? Prabhupada ne padha hoga.
After reading this only his spread is gone.
Nahi, matlab after also reading this. Yeah. What he is no. What he's telling, even after reading this, Prabhupada spread the philosophy of Gaudiya Vaishnavism and not Advaita. Not that Prabhupada did not read. पहले मैं वैसे समझा फिर बाद में. I thought that way. But later I understood. Yeah. So now let us. Okay, so here Srila Vishnu says the first explanation of the first verse of Bhagavad, first explanation where Bhagavan was described, shows its nature as light, Deepam, Adhyatma Deepam, giving deliverance from misery through the general understanding of the Lord of Adhyatma. General understanding. So general understanding was Janmadhyasya Yataha was creation, maintenance and destruction. The second explanation, what was the second explanation? As Krishna. Shows it as the sun. Sun. Which is, what is the purpose of light? Illumination. What is the purpose of sun? Illumination. More powerful illumination. Right? So, The second explanation shows it the sun, which is more powerful, which destroys the misconceptions of the demons and bringing joy to the devotees. This is the second explanation. The third, fourth, and fifth explanations show it is the bestower of tasty fruit full of rasa, revealing Madhura Rasa, Radharani, and pure bhakti as the purpose of Bhagavatam. Okay. So the devotees, being the rightful recipients, are considered to be like the Devatas, since they receive the nectar in the form of relishing the rarest taste of these five meanings. So they relish all these five meanings at the level of lamp, at the level of sun, and at the level of tasty fruit. All three levels. The Bhagavatam is considered to be like Mohini, serving out these different meanings of Bhagavatam to the devotees. To the devotees, he serves these meanings. Though all 12 cantos of the Bhagavatam are like the tasty fruit, okay, even though all 12 cantos are like the tasty fruit, but still the sun and the lamb are like the fruit, the sun and lamb. Okay, all 12 cantos, but still the topics of creation and destruction, Sarga and Nirodha, the first topic and the eighth topic. Okay, Sarga and Nirodha. First canto, sorry, the third canto and the 12th canto. Right? The third canto is Sarga, 12th canto is Nirodha. The third and the 12th canto, which talk about creation, primary creation, and the 12th canto talks about destruction, various types of pralaya. Okay, and the various verses describing this. There are some verses describing this in the second canto also, in the fifth canto also. Okay, these are considered to be the lamb, since those topics reveal only the general aspect of the Lord, but they do reveal a particular aspect of the Lord. The general aspect of the Lord is revealed through Sarga and Nirodha. Okay, yeah. Visarga, the secondary creation, which is the fourth canto. So Sarga is third, Nirodha is 12th, Visarga is fourth canto primarily, Sthanam is fifth canto primarily, Poshanam is sixth canto primarily, Uti is seventh, Manvantara is eighth, Ishanukata is ninth, Mukti is 11th. Okay. The secondary creation, Visarga, maintenance, protection, Poshanam, Uti, Manvantara, Ishanukata, and Mukti are considered to be like the sun. For still more revelation, because this accepts not just the Paramatma feature, but also the Bhagavan feature. Okay. Since they reveal in addition the results of forbidden practices for enjoyment and renunciation available in Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, and their unlimited sub-varieties, and so many other such topics are revealed by Visarga, Sthanam, Poshanam, Manvantara, Ishanukata, and Mukti. All these topics.
So 11, 12 cantos, 10.
Abhi aa raha hai. Ashraya. Topics dealing with the appearance and pastimes of the Lord, Ashraya, and his devotees, and with bhakti and prema are considered to be the tasty fruit of prasad. Right. So through each of these topics, a particular aspect of the absolute truth is revealed. You know, the generic, the more deeper, and the relishable aspects. Generic, more deeper, and relishable aspects are accomplished by Sarga Nirodha, Visarga, Sthanam, Poshanam, Uti, Manvantara, Ishanukata, Mukti, and Ashraya. 3 levels of revelation. As Bhagavatam as the lamp, Bhagavatam as the sun, and Bhagavatam as the tasty fruit. Even though disclaimer that here Srila Vishwanath Thakur is giving is all 12 cantos are considered to be the tasty fruit also, sun also, and lamp also, but still, you know, yeah. All the topics, however, give joy to the devotees. This is the point. All topics give joy to the devotees of the Lord by taking on a meaning which is favorable to Bhakti. The same topics, however, are like Mohini and take on a different meaning for bewildering the demoniac group. So, we should not get troubled that they are getting bewildered because the purpose is accomplished. Because otherwise, how will the Mohini Murti aspect of Bhagavatam be accomplished? Who give meanings unfavorable for bhakti?
Why? What is the need for? What is the complete? What is the meaning by
Because they don't have the right adhikar. They don't want to be eternally bewildered. Let them come in touch with devotees, gain the adhikar, and then understand the right understanding of Bhagavatam. Otherwise, they will think that just by the process of jnana we can ace Bhagavatam. Yeah, just by yeah, they can. Yeah, not devotee, big jnani. So, so the purpose is to actually bewilder. So it is. This is not eternal. They don't have to be eternally bewildered. Krishna says, Tanaham dushatak kruran samsareshu naradamam shipami ajasram ashubhan asurishvara yonishu. So he says that I eternally uh, I cast them into hellish life, the darkest regions of hell, like that he says. Shipami ajasram. Ajasram means eternally. Ajasram ashubhan, into this inauspicious regions of hell. I mean, someone may wonder why eternally. I mean, eternally means not eternally. Eternally means as long as they refuse to rectify their demoniac mentality. If they rectify, then they will not be cast. So it is just like telling, I want to go to Bhaktivedanta Hospital from Srishti. So, so which means after going to the main road, I have to turn left. So let's say I turn right, and Aditya tells me that you will never reach Bhaktivedanta Hospital. So what he actually means is, if you keep walking in that direction, you will never reach. What if I take an about turn and start walking towards the left? I will reach. So it means that as long as they refuse to give up their demoniac inclinations and perspectives, Krishna says they will be cast, because they have to be cast with birds of the same feather so that they can flock together. Otherwise, if you put one crow amidst many swans, the crow will not feel good. But suddenly, when the crow is in the midst of other crows, it will feel a sense of empowerment and sense of, you can say, what you can say, belonging, a sense of belonging, right? So casting them in the inauspicious regions means that which is considered inauspicious by Krishna, but not by the demons. They consider it as very auspicious destination. In their opinion, they will consider it as auspicious. Just like when Prahlad Maharaj addressed Hiranyakashipu as Asura Varya, he felt proud. If we are addressed as Asura Varya, we will not feel proud, right? So like that. So anyway, so he says that, so therefore the point is Bhagavatam utilizes these various topics to accomplish various levels of revelations. Bhagavatam as the lamp, Bhagavatam as the sun, Bhagavatam as the tasty fruit. So you understand the basic understanding of absolute truth, more deeper understanding, and then you can participate in interactions with the absolute truth. You can be a part of the pastimes and release the fruit of Bhagavatam, like that. So these are there for a purpose, and Bhagavatam utilizes these topics to accomplish this multiple levels of purpose. So one should not say that it is unbefitting to eulogize unfavorable meanings of the Bhagavatam, which is directly filled with Bhakti Rasa. How you can give Mohini Murti, gives unfavorable meanings to the demons, how you can eulogize such meanings. It is the Supreme Lord is full of all Shaktis, and so is the Bhagavatam. Thus, it takes meanings corresponding to the minds of various persons, various types of persons, adhikaris of the Shastras. For such revelation is befitting the person who possesses all powers. So he can be revealed in a particular way to particular people with particular adhikaras, and he can be revealed in a different way to different people with different adhikaras. So it is not wrong. So therefore, these other topics are there because through these other topics, multiple layers of revealing the various aspects of absolute truth is accomplished by Krishna. So that is why these topics are there. And in Bhagavatam, all these other 9 topics are exclusively used for that purpose only. Dashamasya Vishuddhyartam Navanamiha Lakshanam Varnayanti Mahatmanaha. We will discuss this as the 5th or 6th reason. So, any quick comments, discussion points, questions on this?
So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that even his demigod worship, and those who worship demigods, right, given the faith to
Continue worshiping.
reinforce their worship.
Yeah.
So in one sense, if there are demonic personalities who read this and interpret it wrongly, it is also reinforcing their faith.
Yeah, it will reinforce their faith.
That's not what is the purpose.
Well, if it does not reinforce their faith, then they will be forced to accept the understanding of Bhagavad. They will reject Bhagavatam only because they are already predisposed. They are already predisposed to a particular. Huh?
It's better not to be just and give some.
Well, it at least Krishna's goal is at least keep them in the periphery. Keep them in the periphery. May you at least accept the Vedic scriptures so that once you get attached to someone who will explain to you the right meaning, you may at least, because you have not already rejected the scriptures themselves as being wrong, so you may at least be willing to accept the right meaning of the scriptures. But if you reject the scriptures only, then on what basis you will accept? So okay, fine, no problem.
It's only the presence of a devotee which can change.
It is only the presence of a devotee which can change. Yeah.
So anyone who is having knowledge of Sanskrit can learn different meaning of
Yeah,
as per his convenience.
yeah, but we cannot accept. Yeah, but we don't accept.
Grammatically and logically, he can prove what he is saying is right.
Yeah. One can prove. And Bhagavatam will allow him to prove also. So that is why we were discussing the other day. What is more important is to align ourselves with the mood of the devotees and the acharyas and the parampara rather than the language itself. Okay. So, because it is not because Krishna is, Bhagavatam especially is non-different from Krishna. If the right mood is there, Bhagavatam will reveal. So, therefore, we cannot overemphasize the need for knowing the language of Sanskrit to actually. Rather, a person who knows the Sanskrit, who knows the language, and who is in line with the with the mood of the acharyas, his translation, if we accept, that is also good enough. I am not telling a need to understand the language is absolutely not there, but it is not there for everyone. Many times, this is where people may get distracted also. I have heard devotees say that you don't know Sanskrit, you can only understand the periphery of Bhagavatam. Well, I mean, if you, this is not the teaching of our acharyas actually. So which means probably your own spiritual master also understands only the periphery of Srimad Bhagavatam. So it is not in the words, it is there in the, they call it dhvani. What is the impact it is creating? When we read it, what is the impact we are creating? What is the impact it is creating? So otherwise we get see, the speaker of Bhagavatam should be obsessed with Bhagavatam and not obsessed with the language.
Otherwise, that young Brahmana in South India,
Yeah.
How did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu do this?
Exactly.
He was practically illiterate.
Yeah. 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 Did he know? So that is why.
That is completely wrong.
Yeah. And is there any episode in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime where he has appreciated a devotee, Keshav Kashmiri? Yeah. So therefore, yeah. So this is something that we need to. So now in this context, I will. I mentioned that after we discuss this, we will go to the Chaitanya Charitamrita conversation between Shila 61 minutes. Okay, let's do a quick recollection. What? 18 and 61. Yeah. What are the 5 meanings that he gave? Even though that's not a subject matter of what we are discussing now, but just for first is Bhagavan. Krishna is the Vastu. Madhura Rasa is the Vastu. Radha and Krishna are the Vastu, and Bhakti is the Vastu. Okay. So I will do a quick search. Okay, so I'm going to share that section with you. Okay, so okay, so this is Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 24th chapter, and this is the chapter on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu describing the 61 different meanings of Atmaram verse 2. Sanatan Goswami, he has done it already. We are not going to do it. But so he says, Krishna Tulya Bhagavata Vibhu Sarvash. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I didn't share. Okay, I'm sorry. क्यों हो नहीं रहा? It happened now. Okay. So Krishna Tulya Bhagavata Vibhu Sarvashre Prati Shloke Prati Akshare Nana Arthaka. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is telling, Srimad Bhagavatam is as great as Krishna, the Supreme Lord, and the shelter of everything. In each and every verse of Srimad Bhagavatam and in each and every syllable, there are various meanings. But if you leave your reading there, then it seems like you are given the license to give the 62nd, 63rd, 64th, 65th meanings of Shrimad of that Atmaram verse. But he continues. He says, Prashnottare Bhagavate Kariyache Nirdhar Yahara Shravana Loke Lage Chamatkar. The form of Srimad Bhagavatam is given in questions and answers. Thus, the conclusion is established. By hearing these questions and answers, one is highly astonished. And then he gives some proof for that. Krishne Sudamo Pagate. Yei mata kahilo ekash. Yei mata kahilo ekash lokera vyakhyan. This is the most important verse. Vatulera pralapakari ke kare praman. Vatul means madman. In this way, like a madman, I have explained the meaning of just one verse. I do not know who will take this as praman, evidence. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaking in Guhya language to Sanatan Goswami. Because Sanatan Goswami is not criticizing Sanatan Goswami for wasting his time hearing all the 61 explanations, right? He says, then he says, Ama hena yeba keha vatula hai, yei drishte bhagavatera artha janai. So he says, if one becomes a madman like me, he may also understand the meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam by this process. So if you want to give the 60-second meaning of Atmaram verse, you become a madman like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It means you have to, okay, you have to at least become mad in Krishna Prem, right? You have to become mad in Krishna Prem, So, Srila Prabhupada's purport, very important. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu plainly explains that Srimad Bhagavatam cannot be understood by those who are materially situated. In other words, one has to become a madman like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Apart from being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is an Acharya who exhibited love of God like a madman. According to his own written verse, Yugayitam Nimeshena, he says that for him, a moment seems to last 12 years or more. Chakshusha Pravrishayitam, my tears are flowing like torrents of rain. Shunyayitam Jagat Sarvam, I feel as if the entire universe were vacant. This is explanation of what does it mean to be a madman. Why? Govinda Virahena me, due to my being separated from Govinda. So, this is the qualification. Right? One can understand Srimad Bhagavatam only by following the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was mad for Krishna. We cannot, of course, imitate Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is not possible. However, unless one is very serious about understanding Krishna, he cannot understand Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam gives the full narration of Krishna's transcendental activities. Anyway, and then explains that. It is therefore concluded that one has to learn about Krishna from Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita, and one has to follow in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Those who do not follow Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cannot understand Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. In the same, he is not telling that other sampradayas do not understand. He is telling, unless you are like a madman. You are mad in love with Krishna. You cannot give the next explanation. So therefore, this is not free license to comment. This is not free license. 6th, 7th, 8th, और आपका explanation क्या है? वैसा नहीं है. First is आपका अधिकार क्या है? So then we will hear. Otherwise, you repeat. That is the point, actually. Otherwise, otherwise it is indirectly telling the other acharyas and myself, we all are more or less OB devotee, MAB devotee. So it is not like that. So that is why, there is a ISKCON hermeneutics course, which is designed by very exalted devotees. ISKCON hermeneutics. Hermeneutics means how do you interpret Shastras? How do you understand Shastras? Interpreting not in a very negative sense, but how do you understand? You know, सब books का commentaries तो नहीं है. अभी नरोत्तम दास ठाकुर का भजन्स का भी commentaries. Let's say if someone wants to write, how do you write? What is the qualification? And there is a course, big course. Urmila Mataji, Radhika Raman Prabhu, then Bhakti Vigyan Goswami Maharaj. They all are part of this committee. They have designed a big, huge course. Who can comment? And how do you become qualified to that and all that? Or what qualification is needed for commenting on which aspects? So pastimes, to comment on pastimes, what level of qualification is needed? To comment on Siddhanta, what level of qualification is needed? All that is there. So, like that. हमारे लिए नहीं है. नहीं, is for, yeah. That is why जो अटेंड करते हैं, they understand that पहले पढ़ें, उसके बाद सोचें. So the purpose is to discourage upstarts. That is the purpose of the course. It's to discourage upstarts who prematurely think that I will write the next commentary. So, but they don't say that. But at the end of the course, everyone understands. So that's the purpose of the course. I think this is indicating that it's time.
Many people like these papers, big
Well, there is a question here. There are people like Devdutt Patnaik and others who have written all kinds of nonsense. There is no one opposing. See, I mean, that is not, someone can do if they want, but that is not the prime purpose of our sampradaya. It's not that all of a sudden one Devdutt Patnaik has come. Traditionally also they have always been there, and some debating and that some elite people, they were involved, not common men. So yeah, some people can get involved in that, but it's not everyone. And especially our sampradaya is not a, there are two types of sampradayas. One is vicharatmika sampradaya and rasatmika sampradaya. In vicharatmika sampradaya, there are there is lot of debates and establishing one's own philosophy over the others. The topmost in that, rank one in that is Madhva Sampradaya amongst the Vaishnava Sampradayas. They are like, for them, debating is their life and soul, in a good sense, not in a critical way. But in our Sampradaya, people have कौन सा पत्र में साइन करने बताओ फिर, टाइम नहीं है मुझे, I am meditating, so please don't disturb me. I will sign. Take it. Go.
One aspect you show you that person, but another aspect, common people do not get the purpose of an acharya is to light up the knowledge part. So, like no Prabhupada was criticizing Maya, he was not explained heavily on the Maya criticism.
Yeah. Correct. Correct. But
very heavy on the Maya.
Yeah, but many to get carried away because हमको वो रसा है, we have that rasa, but that can be defeated primarily by our purity. Purity is the force. So why is our preaching not very effective? Or if our preaching is not effective, it is primarily due to purity that we have to accept. So it is not that if we in very fancy ways prove them wrong, there will be more followers. There may be more YouTube followers, but not devotees, not necessarily. Uh, so I mean, by actually taking these things seriously, we are actually giving them credibility. We should take our own practice seriously rather than these things seriously. By taking these things seriously, we are giving them credibility, and we are giving alternate food for thought for our people also, who are already distracted sufficiently. Huh? Yeah, there is there insufficient subject matter for our devotees to get distracted? It is more pain to hear that our devotees are not hearing, are not sufficiently studying our own books. That is a bigger pain. Yeah, you oppose them publicly, it becomes more publicity. Why give them that publicity? So when Prabhupada said, when someone would ask Prabhupada, what do you think of this guru? Prabhupada would say, I don't think of him. I don't think about him, Prabhupada said. Which don't give much credibility. If 15, 20 ISKCON devotees also release a video opposing this, you will see that that video till now has 1 lakh views. It will become 1 crore views. You are just do your job. Our purpose is not. So the first thing is, we can't take these things. That's what I told that devotee also. I mean, we don't want to see. Not that acharyas have not written. I sent to missionary commentary to this. Look, there is इसमें लिखा है, but by answering to these by making counter video, all that, you are just going to make him more popular. So like that. Anything else?
Just to further the cause of Kaliyuga, Krishna orchestrates so many ways of Kaliyuga can be furthered. Like first Buddhism, and then Sankarism, Sankarite, then establishment. But the reason why Buddhism and Shankaracharya is because of this. One reason is also to further the cause of Kaliyuga. And then this is because this is Kaliyuga. Because this is Kaliyuga, you have to elect undertake some activities which will further its cause. But then who designed this system of Kaliyuga,
Yeah.
So what is the purpose behind dividing the time into these 4 yugas with its own particular set of properties? And so that things in that particular yuga will go according to that set of properties outside.
Because people qualified for that particular yuga can remain there. You should have.
Also to remember the demons. But then it's
No, but Brahma Vimohan Leela did not. Of course, demons were always existing. Yeah.
also to get bigger and then think something else.
No, so that they can. No, not like that. No, so that they can. They have demoniac mentality, and at least giving them a scope rather than forcing them, rather than being an absolute atheist rejecting the scriptures, at least accept the scriptures. So that, as I was answering Ramlal Rose, so at least once they start accepting the scriptures, then when they become recipients of some Agyat Sukriti, it gives them a head start. Oh, there is an alternative understanding of this scripture. So now why did you accept Kaivalya? When I said Kaivalya also means Kevala. So it means Kevala Bhakti. You accepted. Why?
That's pretty good.
Because you accepted the literature and you accepted and you had enough Sukriti to accept the explanation of the Acharyas. But if you start with rejecting the scripture only, then it's additional work, right? So at least in that sense, there must be much more deeper reasons, but this is one reason that I can think of.
The bigger question is why the four yugas and why restrictions of those set of qualities.
Because living entities are
Then do some things just to further because of that.
no it looks like that from a very simplistic.
Which makes people away from the real path of dharma.
No, it's not like that. It's not like that. Actually, the particular, you have people with particular qualification. You can't take, it's not that suddenly after this Kali Yuga, when Satya Yuga starts, these same living entities with the same kind of conditioning will only be there in that Satya Yuga, because ultimately they will carry their Swabhava also. Na? So if after this Kali Yuga, they have all this intense, deadly Tamoguni, Rajoguni Swabhava, you think they'll be given entrance into Satya Yuga? No. Where there is some Kali Yuga going on, there. And if they get purified there, then they may go to some other Yuga like that. But it's not that the same living entities after Kali Yuga, they will become, they will be in the Sattva Yuga, Satya Yuga. Because that will make no sense, with all these conditionings, Satya Yuga will suffocate them. So it's not like that. So there are Jnanis, yogis who by practicing proper Jnana, yoga, vairagya, etc., they develop more and more sattva. So they will get an opportunity to take birth in other lives.
They're same entity. Like in
Yeah, correct. I mean, correct. You cannot, I'm not telling that if all people in a particular yuga are homogeneously one, but at least there are some, yeah. Correct. Not that in Kali Yuga there are no people with sattva.
They have taken darshan of Lord Rama. Still they are not purified or
There definitely something will be facilitated depending on how much their purification of Swabhava has taken place, how much their desires, their karma, depending on all of that, it will be a particular destination, a particular yuga will be arranged for them. That's my understanding.
Actually, all these four things existing in all the yugas. So then why personified Kali asked for entrance in the Parishad Maharaj's kingdom? That is its communication and all this. It's existing in other yugas, just like now that Dwarka is going on. There also the prostitution was there.
Yeah, but not like what it is existing in Kali Yuga. It's not that. So all those four things were there definitely in Dwapara Yuga, with 70% force, with 3/4, and with full force in Kali Yuga. It's not that it was not there.
It was there.
Yeah. Anything else? Yes.
So like somebody has he has that capacity and understanding. He's actually writing books to clarify the doubts of people.
Yeah.
If somebody has the capacity and intelligence, definitely it's not for us to go and
Yeah, that's right. That's why I told it is even traditionally, it's not that every Sri Vaishnavite or every Madhvaite was involved in in these kind of debates. Some people who are capable of doing it, they can do, but it's not that it's everyone's. A common man need not bother about these things. A common man has to focus on what is primarily given, and also the kind of, yeah, yeah. And it's a, of course, the level at which it's happening in Kali Yuga is also very, I mean, in today's day and age, is neither are they well read, so therefore there is no need for us also to be very well read to defend those things. So the whole episode is happening at a very sort of superficial level. Yeah, mostly, yeah.
They enjoy that. They're not looking at.
Depends on how much they get influenced by what we see.
Yeah. See, ultimately,
People who are looking for it.
so they can. So the point is, as devotees, we have to do our job, maintain our purity, and give them. Otherwise, there is unlimited scope for hearing everything. Um, People will hear everything. So devotees have to do their job. Maintain your purity, understand your own acharya's writings nicely, and present it in a way that they can accept it nicely. That's all. So we don't have to get annoyed about it. Traditionally, our acharyas never got really made it and at least not in our parampara. Of course, in the other paramparas, maybe. But it's not that we directly quote them. You would never see Prabhupada quoting except once quoting for one purpose. Manmanabhava Madbhakto, he used to quote Radha Krishnan's interpretation of it. Other than that, Prabhupada would never quote any other apasampradayic person and give him any kind of such kind of a validation. Because there is no worth even quoting you and defeating you. We would rather, sort of be mind our own.
Even in his early although he has not all well criticized them, other than he just
Even in Ramayana books also, nobody is quoted.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
given explanation of the
Yeah. Correct. That's all. No? That's all. That's what. So you write what your acharyas have given. That's all. I mean, why bother about the existence of Devdutt Patnaik? Whether Devdutt Patnaik exists or not, that is not the purpose of our preaching. That need not fuel our preaching also. We preach because it's pleasing to Krishna. Why give the credit to Devdutt Patnaik? We preach because it's pleasing to Krishna, because it's pleasing to Prabhupada, because it's pleasing to.
these books are not looked at upon as always books. Semi-fictional books. These are management books.
I was ready to pick up.
No.
She was waiting in library. So the librarian gave her
Then she was reading from Choudhary.
He's ready to make money.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so correct. So yeah. So these kind of people will always be there. But let us not make the goal of our life. We don't do it for that. I mean, if Devdutt Patnaik is doing that, what you will do? You will write proper books. Two, if he is not there, what you will do? You will still write proper books only, na? So why even give that credit to him? You write proper books because it's pleasing to Krishna. You quote Devdutt Patnaik, it just unnecessarily agitates people. And you know what? It will inspire people to go and read what he says. I will tell you one example. There is one very wonderful book written by, I will tell that this is a close group I can share also. Unspoken Obstacles on the Path to Bhakti. Fantastic book written by His Holiness Purna Chandra Maharaj. It's actually a book meant for leaders, especially leaders with an ISKCON. You know, how do you deal with subordinates in a way that is in line with the Vaishnava ethos and in a way that is empowering? Very beautiful books. You know, he speaks about various obstacles that can come in subordinate senior relationships. You know, how you can break the faith of people like that, because it gives scope for. It talks about what is expected of the leader. In one of the temples, the book is banned. Actually, brahmacharis are not supposed to read that book, because you will start seeing the leaders in that light. So I didn't know this. So when I was in this particular temple, I quoted a statement from this particular book. Okay. Of course, the leader was not there. But I didn't exactly quote from the book, but I said, "Is unless Purnachandra Maharaj says." Good for me, I didn't say that it was from that book. Then after the class, 3 different devotees at different times, they came and asked, "Prabhuji, have you read Purnachandra Maharaj this book?" I could immediately understand something fishy. I asked him, I didn't say yes. I said, "Why?" So he said that because Prabhuji, this book is banned in our temples. I said, I don't know. I have not read that book. But he told all 3 of them, "Prabhuji, we actually did not know about this book, but after it was publicly banned, I secretly read this book." 3 people came and told me the same thing. 3 people came and told me the same thing. Because this is the mentality. Don't read. Because I never heard about Devdutt Patnaik till our ISKCON devotees were very vociferously talking about it. So, I mean, that's all. Okay, I think we'll pause here, and I think everyone is waiting for the real purpose of the meeting. Huh? Oh, success, yeah. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.